What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 382 of Opinions May Vary. I'm your host, JR. I have my co-host with me, Alex.
Hey.
How are you?
Pretty good.
I missed you. It's been so long.
Yes.
So much has happened. And we're not going to talk about any of it because we have a very fine guest this week waiting patiently on the Skype machines. It is the owner, operator, creator, however you want to call it, of Rocket Props. We have Rocket himself. Thank you so much for coming on, my friend.
Yes, it's a pleasure to be here.
We are going to talk about, because we have a convention coming up. Mm-hmm. We have one we actually got this a couple days in advance too. It's not like we went to a convention a couple weeks ago and we hit up a guy who was vending there and displaying his product. We talked to him 24 hours before the show.
Yeah.
48.
We talked to him on Thursday, and he had to be set up by Saturday morning.
But so we are managing to get this one a little bit earlier, and but we have Kinetic On coming up. This is going to be our fifth or sixth year. Mm-hmm. I can't recall.
Me neither.
It's been a couple. It's our favorite, backyard show. It's the only show that we can just like. Hey, when do you want to head down? Oh, whatever.
It only takes 20 minutes.
Yeah, it takes 20 minutes to get there.
Oh, that must be nice.
Yeah. You've heard us say Rocket's name in the past because we've brought up the panels he's done with our good friend Vicky. She's been on a bunch of times, and they run panels together with Minx?
Mink the Satyr.
Mink, not Minx.
Thank you. Jared caught their panel at PAX
East,
and Joe saw it before either of us did. Also at PAX. The year before that.
I got I saw it the first year.
Oh, you were there too. Okay,
but I got there late.
You were at our first one.
I will see. That's like, and I've eagle-eyed listeners. That doesn't make sense. I was splitting the time because I went to check out the Omegathon first, and then I was going to go check out the three of you at your panel. And when I showed up, I went to go stroll in, and they I got checked by an enforcer. They're like, "Sorry, man, room's full."
Yeah, it was wicked full that year. It was awesome.
And now, I'm like,
what exactly is Omegathon? I never really understood that.
When you buy a PAX badge, you can check off a little box that says consider me to be an Omeganaut, and they call up a bunch of people and they give you a little quick interview, I guess. And if you're selected, you spend throughout the 3 or 4 days of PAX, you at certain times you go play games in panel rooms in front of crowds and stuff. And if you don't get last place, you move on. If you get last place, you're eliminated. And then it eventually winds up so that there's if it's single, the top two will go against each other. It's the last event on Sunday night at every PAX.
I would not do well at that.
Yeah.
It would be fun, but I would not do well.
The games are, I think they're released a little bit beforehand, so you get time to do a little bit of research.
Yeah, they get a playthrough or two,
and you get and you can play them at the show beforehand. But sometimes it could be the final round is always pretty huge. One year it was a giant claw machine. It was the first year at PAX Unplugged. It was they played Battleship. How are you good at Battleship?
Right.
It's just random.
Oh, so just not just video games.
Yeah. It's
right.
It's both at PAX Unplugged. I believe it's all tabletop because that's kind of the theme of the show.
Oh, that would be fun.
Yeah.
But at East, I went to the Omegathon last year and they were playing a puzzle magnet tile game.
Okay, yeah.
But they also do play video games.
I always thought that was for all video games, and I was I'm a slow learner at video games.
Yep, same.
There was one that was a lawn mowing game.
Dude, which mowing and throwing was so hype.
Mowing and throwing.
That sounds amazing. I totally just derailed the conversation, though.
No, it's okay. This is how our podcast goes.
Yeah, this is how every episode goes. But essentially what I was getting at was I got body checked. I couldn't get into your panel because it was full. I managed to sneak in though because when you guys started the Q&A, a couple people left, and I did the whole oh hey, the door's open. I'm just gonna sneak right in here. So I did catch some of the Q&A at the end, which is cool. People were asking questions. I had no idea what they were saying, and then
I got stuck with all the samples.
I did. I got all the there were samples of
foam and
Warbler and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And like I was the last person to have them, so I was like, I guess I'll just hang on to these.
He wanted to bring him back up, but then you guys were all
Yeah,
flooded.
you guys were
with people.
mobbed.
Yeah, it's always like that at the end of panels. So just because like all the people who didn't get to ask questions, like just come up and ask us. We're like, yeah, we have to leave because the next panel is starting.
Let's talk about that. I guess since we're on it, was PAX East the 2 years ago? Was that the first panel that you have ever done?
Not the first panel that I had ever. I'm actually completely blanking when our first panel was together. This most recent PAX was not it.
Right.
The one before that, maybe. I honestly can't remember when our first materials panel was.
Mm-hmm.
I've been doing panels for probably 4 or 5 years now.
Mm-hmm.
I originally started by doing introduction to 3D printing for processing cosplay. I still do that panel whenever it gets accepted. But for some reason, PAX particularly doesn't like that panel application. I'm not really sure why. But anyways.
Did they give you any sort of like explanation, or is it simply just no thank you?
No, they're just like, yeah, you weren't picked, sorry.
Huh.
Anyways, yeah, so like it was really interesting because I'd been wanting to do a materials panel for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And I have like a bunch of friends at my makerspace who I could do it with, but none of them were like quite the draw, so to speak. Like my co-hosts for the 3D printing panel were very knowledgeable in 3D printing, about as knowledgeable as myself, so that was a good fit. And at the time, there still weren't like a whole ton of people doing 3D printing panels, so like it was usually pretty popular. But in general, I found that like I'm way more of a materials nerd than a lot of people. So when I asked my friends if they wanted to do it with me, they were like, "Yeah, I don't know if I'm like really qualified." In their opinion, they are, but whatever. So I reached out to Mink because I had met Mink through doing Borderlands cosplays.
Mm-hmm.
And she's always insane and always amazing, and she is one of the people who, like, just her sheer enthusiasm for costumes has helped me to kind of, like, keep going at times. I'm like, this sucks.
We've all been there.
Yeah. And then I was like, wow, we need a third. And I was like, I met this really awesome Samus cosplayer. And I was like, I'm going to just randomly message her and ask her. Because one of the things that I do at cons is I fix costumes.
Okay.
And so I meet, like, a ton of people. So when I'm not wearing a costume, I basically walk around with a big... right now... Well, let me start over. It's sort of evolved. It originally started with me fixing just anybody's costumes.
Mm-hmm.
I'll explain the story in a minute. But it's sort of evolved, and now I have a legendary staff of Cosplay Repair, so that I can also wear a costume in addition to fixing costumes.
God, I feel like I've seen that. Have you worn that at shows nearby? Like, have you done that at PAX or ConnectiCon?
I did free Cosplay Repair at ConnectiCon last year a little bit. There's a couple different people who do it. But when I started, I was like one of 3 people in the country who did it.
You were a trendsetter.
I won't take full credit. I'll give most of the credit to a guy in Australia, actually, named Captain Patchett. And then another woman on the West Coast called Sergeant Swiftstitch. And they really were doing it before me, but I will take credit for a lot of the big exposure that sort of set the trend for people to start doing it. But anyways, basically I was at a Dragon Con, and I had only brought one costume. It was my first cosplay ever. It was the Badass Marauder from Borderlands. The cell shading was subpar, to say the least. It's one of my skills that I still haven't quite gotten up to par, in my opinion. But I made a really sweet prop, which I was super proud of. It was large. I'll talk about it in a few minutes. But anyways, when you are at Dragon Con, there's a parade every year on Saturday.
Yeah.
It's like 90 some odd degrees outside and humid. And my costume was cargo pants and a sweatshirt.
Oh, God.
And a helmet. So, needless to say, after the parade, there was a photo shoot. And then after that photo shoot, I was like, I don't want to wear this costume for the rest of this convention. It was disgusting. I won't go into details. I'm sure you can imagine. Because I wasn't prepared for how warm it would be.
Right.
So what I did was I had brought all of my tools and like crafting stuff with me, like my glue gun, my glue, and like all sorts of stuff. So I was like, I'm gonna go to CVS and grab a bunch of supplies like sewing kit and like stuff like that. I bought a piece of poster board, bought some big markers, and I made this sign that said free costume repairs or free cosplay repairs. I have a picture somewhere. I can't remember exactly what it said. And then I had like a list of all the things that I was carrying with me underneath it. And I basically like lugged around this big heavy backpack with all this stuff in it for the rest of the con. And I had so many people coming up to me and like, oh my God, you're a lifesaver. Can you fix this? Or, oh my God, do you have a safety pin? Or, oh my God, do you have a bobby pin? Blah, 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 blah. And so it sort of just like grew from there. And I had so much fun doing it because like my brain works in the sort of way where I just like fixing things. I like seeing how other people make things. And my brain also sort of collects all that information as to how those things fail. And then I sort of integrate that into my future projects to make sure that my things don't fail that way or I have a way to fix it.
Right.
It's like free experience, but you don't have to deal with the pain.
100%. It's experience. I wouldn't say it's free, though, because I have to actually prove myself and fix their costumes in order to gain that experience.
Right.
There has not been... Okay, I can't say there hasn't been something I couldn't fix, but the only time that there have been costumes that I couldn't fix were due to me not having a very specific like item or something.
Right.
Like paint or like the first one was like a wig cap. And just like so every time
an extra
I did
plasma
it
cannon.
I sort of like increased my list, and it's just gotten longer and longer. And I've sort of like whittled it down to like this perfect number of things that I can carry and that I can always fix anything anybody asks me for, unless they're like, can you fix my heart? Which people do ask. Or can you fix my brain? Or like, I need friends. Can you help? Things like that.
Like, I am not qualified.
Yeah. I'd be like, hey, just look around. Everyone here loves this sort of stuff. Be friends with them. Yeah. I mean, there's it's super, super fun. So the second or third time I did it, it was at New York Comic Con. And that's when, like, a picture of me went, it was, I think the second time I did it, it was at Comic Con, yeah.
Yep.
And I got interviewed by somebody. And that article, like, sort of made its way around. And then after New York Comic Con, or maybe that year before it, I was at Anime Boston doing the same thing, having a ton of fun. And at that point, I'd sort of upgraded to a new sign and a tactical vest. So, like, everything was on my vest. I could just get at it. I didn't have to worry about carrying around a big backpack. And I had, like, sort of developed these systems. I had a sign that actually folded in half so that I could, like, close for business, so I could, like, go eat lunch without being mobbed.
Right.
Please, I need to eat.
And I've had a lot of fun sort of, like, developing the different techniques to, like, carry my stuff and bring stuff, and I've made different signs. It's been a ton of fun, but I remember this day vividly. I don't remember the exact date, but it was sometime in February. And if I remember correctly, no, it wasn't in February. It was in like March or April, I think, because it was months after this convention.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody posted an image of me on Imager in this getup at Anime Boston. And I remember this vividly because I was on a first date with my ex-girlfriend that we did for like three years. And I hadn't checked my phone the entire night because I was, on a date.
Right.
Gentlemen.
Yeah.
So I'm like walking back to my house because we had left our stuff there while we got to play pool. And like my phone was just blowing up. And I was like, I gotta check this. I don't know what's happening. I'm just getting messages constantly. And I open it up and people are like, you're viral. You're all over the internet. Blah, blah, blah. You're famous. And I was like, what is happening? So it was like pretty hilarious. It was helpful. It impressed her. It was great. Yeah. So, and then I really enjoyed it. And so ever since then, I've continued to do it, but I've sort of started doing it less. Partially because I want to wear my own costumes.
Mm-hmm. That's fair.
And it's really hard to do it both ways.
Right.
But I have really enjoyed all of the people that have sort of like found me or like seen that picture and then were like, hey, because in the picture it says @RocketProps. It's like my tag and everything on my sign, so that people can like page me, so to speak. So I got all these messages that were like, hey, I would love to do this. What sort of stuff do you carry? And like, what are the best ways to fix things? And blah blah blah. And it's sort of been my dream to like organize sort of a repair corps at the big cons, like
right.
near Con and stuff. There's a lot of things that have sort of changed about the whole cosplay repair thing in like the last, 7 years or so. Because like more people are doing it now. Mm-hmm. Some cons actually supply it.
Right.
And one of the things I've found is that people are a lot less appreciative of it, believe it or not. Like, not individuals, but it's kind of hard to explain, but I find that a lot of cosplayers take us more for granted than they used to. So at conventions, like 6 years ago, there would be like one person, me and maybe one other person.
Right.
And like the con wouldn't supply anything. Like there might be one or two booths that do it, but they wouldn't like really advertise it. They like if you went up to them, they would have a small kit. And now there's booths like at San Diego Comic-Con a few years ago. Sci-Fi paid people to walk around with these carts and do it. But the interesting thing is that like either the people manning those carts wouldn't actually really have any understanding of like the time and effort and care that needs to be taken with these costumes.
Because they're a person that's paid to push a cart.
Exactly. And then it's like, oh yeah, here's a glue gun, or like, oh, here's a safety pin.
It's like a fix-it-yourself cart.
I'm not saying they're incompetent or anything, but it's just like a different environment. So the first probably 6 cons I went to, after the first one, I started accepting tips. Like if somebody offered me a tip, I wouldn't refuse it, because it would all of that would either go back to me eating at the convention or me buying more supplies because it wasn't cheap. And so like, yeah. But now I find that I get like, if I have 100 repairs in one convention,
yeah, I'll
get offered a tip like maybe 10, whereas previously 75% of the people would offer me a tip.
Wow.
It's just like a really interesting sort of dynamic that's evolved. And again, I don't do it for the tip. I love just interacting with the cosplayers and helping them because I know the time and effort it takes in these costumes and props, and I know like how awful it is to get to a convention and then have your thing that you spent hundreds of hours on fall apart when somebody bumped into you or something. yeah, so like that sort of comes into the whole like, craftsmanship part of it. It's just like really cool seeing all the incredible craftsmanship.
That kind of answered my question, because I was gonna say, has anyone like given you spare materials to make up for what you've used up? Like, hey, I had like a spare sewing kit in my car that I don't need now. Can you just take it and add it to your kit?
Yeah, a few. Not really though, because I'm the person who's carrying those supplies.
Yeah.
I mean, if they're a person who's with like a con mom or a con dad or con care, however you want to classify it, then that person has like a small repair kit and has the stuff they need.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, not usually. I mean, so one of the coolest things that happened to me because of this was that I was contacted by a guy at 3M.
3M?
Like the tape 3M.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. So he sent me an email. He's like, hey, I saw you do this thing, and I think it's really cool. We have a budget to like just send out supplies to people like that do this, like this, that we believe in their mission. And I was wondering if I could send you some stuff. And I was like, yes, please. That would be amazing. And sort of, in addition to that, I was like, I make things out of duct tape, right? Because I don't know if you've seen on my website, my sort of niche skill is making sculptures out of 100% duct tape.
That sounds very difficult.
So, wait. We might have met a bunch of years ago. There was like this art walk through Boston.
Yeah.
Where like it was part of the highway, but then they moved to underground, and now it's just like nice green area.
Yeah, the Greenway. Yeah, I was there.
Okay. There was a Serenity made completely out of duct tape.
That was me.
Okay.
When was that?
This was
That was probably 6 years ago.
I think it was longer.
Ago.
This had to be somewhere between 2010 and 2012.
Well, it can't have been after 2012. I mean, it can't have been before 2012 because I was not in Boston yet.
Okay.
It may have been It would have been the summer of 2013, I think.
That sounds about right.
Because I finished it that winter.
It was rough watching everyone like walk up and want to try and touch it too.
Oh, I mean, it's still alive and kicking. It's still there.
Unlike Wash, am I right?
But yes. So I'll talk about that in a second. But due to 3M contacting me, I received over 50 pounds of supplies, tapes, glues, zip ties, like all sorts of stuff, and it was really incredible. And it like actually really helped boost like the supplies that I had.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them I still have. Like I haven't even gone through all of them. It's been awesome. And since then, they've sent me like over 100 pounds of duct tape.
Damn.
Nice.
How long is it? And the market has been expanding. It's been getting cheaper to do prints and sculpts and things like that. Is it just a matter of time until you're literally just have some sort of portable 3D printer and you're able to print stuff on the spot?
Oh, so that's like a whole separate...
That's the dream.
So, as a day job, I'm an electrical/mechanical engineer, so like 3D printing is my jam. But it's still pretty far out to have very, very fast printing.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I could carry around a 3D printer right now if I wanted to. It would be pretty heavy, but it would probably be less heavy than carrying that Serenity on my back to conventions, which I have done. It weighs 23 pounds without the backpack. It weighs about 30 with the backpack. Because it's an aluminum frame backpack that I like made so that it holds it just right at the right angle and doesn't slide off.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, the answer is not super soon, but I think maybe within our lifetime.
Okay.
That would be because I used to work at a bookstore, and we started selling stuff other than books. And
Yeah,
they started doing this big maker push. Like we had a mini maker fair, which is actually pretty neat. It was one of the,
those are awesome.
It was one of the events that I actually had because I usually was put in charge of running events, and the mini maker fair was actually a really good time. I'm kind of bummed that they stopped doing it, but they sent us a 3D printer, and we were actually selling them, but we got to set one up to demo, and like every now and then we could print stuff, and I remember seeing like they gave us like it was like a little owl like statue. It was like, okay.
Yeah, I own 3 3D printers, so
I know how it goes.
yes,
but like
it is a gateway drug.
It was really neat, and like people would come in and buy them. I had no idea what I was doing with it, but like I got the thing to print this owl, and like when you press print, and it's like, okay, come back in 7 hours.
Yeah.
And then it didn't print with a head. There was no head on it. And I was like, oh, well, they messed up. They're so stupid. Why would they do this? But then I realized it's because they wanted us to keep the owl in the 3D printer to look like it was in a constant state of printing, because it had a demo mode where like the everything inside would move around a bunch and look like it was
hilarious.
printing.
Huh.
But nothing, like you had to, and I had to like tape down the owl because like it would just jostle everywhere.
Right.
But
That's
I still
so
have that. I kept that
funny.
owl. That's my owl now.
I was hoping we'd just keep printing the neck, so it would just keep getting longer and longer.
That's really, really funny.
But it's a really it's mesmerizing to watch. The people like yourself who can actually make it do things to, like bend it to their will is fascinating.
That's the thing that amateurs like ourselves don't think about. Is like, oh, well, you get the 3D printer, just start printing. No, you gotta
tell it what to print.
You gotta design stuff or buy designs or any of the above.
So it's like a whole other world. One of the things I've learned over the last probably 7 years or so since I started 3D printing is that you can 3D print things, but the question is whether or not you should. And if you should, how do you 3D print it? So, for example, let's see. If I wanted Iron Man armor,
Mm-hmm.
and I had the 3D model sized to me and everything, and the model was the right thickness and all of that, like Adam Savage did in his new TV show, then great, I would have it 3D printed. But I would not have it 3D printed in plastic. The amount of sanding that you would have to do if you had it in plastic is just astronomical. And
Right.
people do this. So, like, it's just sort of like, I have like sort of this decision tree in my brain as to when and how and if I'm going to 3D print something. So I've taught myself how to 3D model things. So when there's like a cool gun in a video game, I'll model it. I'll remodel it. Either using the original model or just with like pictures.
While we're here, can we talk about this? Because this is
Yeah.
something. So, did you teach yourself how to do 3D modeling, or did you go to school for it, or is it something you can
I taught myself. I'm completely self-taught. I started fooling around with Google SketchUp when I was in high school and college. Actually, initially for making my duct tape models, because I would find a 3D model in SketchUp and then I would be able to like slice it and like get the like different dimensions and views off the bat.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started fooling around a little more in college with some more advanced software. And then since I came to Boston after college, I've just sort of dove in head first. And a lot of it has been trial and error, some YouTube, but like I'm a very spatial person, so it's not really like some people have more difficulty than I do sort of wrapping their head around this, quite literally around a 3D space. this is sort of how my brain works. If I can see and touch a thing, or even just like I can visualize it in my brain. So it mostly just came down to learning the techniques within the tool that let me do what I want to do.
Would you recommend like just going after it in self-learning, or would you recommend like taking some classes?
100%. I recommend it. But that being said, self-learning today means learning from other people at the same time digitally. Because there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of videos on YouTube that actually will walk you through introductory steps into 3D modeling. And that's basically what the first panel that I ended up teaching with my friends was. It was Introduction to 3D Printing. And we would talk about how to get into 3D modeling, how to pick your printer, like all of this stuff. But if anyone out there listening is interested in this, it's super fun, it's addictive, but it is time consuming, and it does take practice.
Right.
So I luckily have to be able to work with 3D models and 3D modeling at work for a job. So I have some experience through that, but admittedly, most of my 3D modeling experience is outside of work. But a good starting software that's like super beginner, and it kind of will give you the fundamentals as to how 3D modeling software works, is called Tinkercad, if anyone out there is interested. And then slightly like a step up from that can be anywhere from intermediate to very advanced, is called Fusion 360. And they're both free. So, yeah.
That's important, the free part.
Yeah, of course.
So how did you transfer those into deciding what to print and what medium to print it on and what printer to use?
What printer? So there's a bunch of different types of printers.
Right.
I'm going to go through I'll go through the three main types. There's a printer called FDM, which is Fused Deposition Modeling, which is a type of printer that you see most often, which squirts out plastic.
Yep.
Right.
I own 3 of those. One of them is currently not working. That's a different story. There's another type of printer called a DLP or SLA printer, which is based on a resin, so a liquid resin that gets cured in layers by either a laser or a projector. And that gives you much, much finer resolution prints. So for an FDM print, you can get a layer height of anywhere from 0.07 millimeters to 0.5 millimeters if you change your nozzle size. So you can print like huge things with like big coarse resolution, or you can print pretty detailed things. And that all depends on, and that'll all affect how long it takes to print, how much material it takes to print, the strength of the print, etc. The DLP printers give you extremely high resolution prints. We're talking like micron or a couple micron level layers. The third type of printer is when you get into the super expensive industrial types, which is it's called laser sinter. So it's essentially a laser. Now, admittedly, some of the resin-based printers do use lasers, but if it's sintered, that means that it's melting a powder together. And that can be anything from titanium to steel to nylon to any, and you can get some really good resolution out of those as well. But each type of printer has its own limitations. So like, it's kind of, it really depends on the size of the model, the different parts. I tend to design all of my 3D models for FDM printing because they're fast and you can iterate upon a design pretty cheaply. The resin gets kind of expensive, so unless you're ready to go and you know you have a final design and you don't want to deal with like sanding stuff after the fact, you don't really want to use a resin printer, otherwise you're going to be spending $50 per print.
So which one prints up the masks that we see in Mission Impossible? Because that's important to me.
Oh my god, that stupid thing. I know exactly what you're talking about. That isn't a thing. However, it may be a thing in the future. Who knows?
I'll stay optimistic then.
That one basically looks like it sprays a fast curing silicone,
Yeah.
and then also has a computerized airbrush on it to like get all the freckles and all the facial like blemishes on there. It's a really, really cool idea. I'm not going to be the one developing it.
Meanwhile,
That's for the Impossible Mission Force.
that took a makeup artist like 30 hours to complete.
Yeah. Yeah. And like 500 different colors or whatever.
Yeah, easily.
I imagine that could, in theory, be done. However, there's not a silicone that cures quite that quickly.
No.
Someday we'll be dramatically ripping faces off after we fool someone into giving us all the information
Codes
that we need.
to-
The codes
we'll
to
take our-
the submarine.
Codes or whatever. Oh,
We'll
yeah,
take our
that's
voice changer tape
that's a
microchip.
super cool thing to think about right now. That's just wonderful.
Your Instagram page, I find highly entertaining because I like your video clips where I can't tell when you're excited or when you're furious.
So I've gotten a number of different comments on the way I do my Instagram videos. From I can't watch your videos because it gives me heart palpitations, or like I think it's hilarious when you just like throw the thing you're working on onto your desk willy-nilly and don't even care. And I will admit that I have broken things by throwing them onto my desk for my Instagram video, and then I have to fix them. But yeah, I mean, it's hard for me to. I've always tried to do a really good job of documenting my work, but it's hard because, like, unless you're setting up like 4 cameras and like a third, like a camera arm and like all this stuff, it's just in your way. So I'm like holding my phone with one hand and trying to like show how I'm like doing this very precise thing with an extremely sharp scalpel blade. And so like it ends up being like a 3-second clip.
Right.
Because if I don't put the phone down, I'm gonna slice my thumb off or something. Yeah, it's really fun though. I wish that it was easier to sort of time my clips to music.
Yeah.
I try to, but it ends up being just super disorienting if you're listening to the music because it never matches up. But
Yeah, video editing's no joke. That we've dabbled in that about 3 times, and we just get frustrated within 5 minutes. And it's like, okay, screw this project. We're never doing it again.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I do have a dream of starting a YouTube channel. Rather, I have a YouTube channel, but there's not a whole lot on there. But I have a dream of actually like putting content on there. It's just kind of hard when you realize that like there's literally no way you can compete with all of like the big names out there now.
Yeah.
Everyone's got to start somewhere.
And they
That's
already have like an $8,000 Patreon per month or something. It's like, wow.
Yeah,
that's,
I mean,
how
not
do
even
I?
that. Like, it's the people who like don't have a normal day job.
That's
Whatever. So like, I want to go make stuff. I don't want to have to worry about making stuff and then editing a video for 4 hours as well. Right now, maybe in the future.
Yeah.
But one of the reasons why I do my Instagram the way I do as well, because I work at a really cool workshop. I don't know if you've heard of the Artisans Asylum.
We have now.
Did Savage talk about that?
What was that?
I was wondering if our friend Savage had talked about that.
He has his own makerspace.
Okay.
He has a different one in Lowell that he goes to.
That sounds more
which is also
correct.
a really cool one. It's called Lowell Makes. The Artisans Asylum is in Somerville, and it's 40,000 square feet. It's got a machine shop, metal shop, 3D printing shop, screen printing shop, wood shop. I run the prop shop. There's a textile shop. There's a casting shop. And then I rent 100 square feet of space there. So I have my own little workshop there. And because I run the prop shop as well, I have some, and I might be in the metal shop, or I might be in the machine shop, or whatever.
Mhm.
I have to be able to, not have to worry about having 6 cameras set up everywhere I am. Because I would just get in other people's way.
Mhm.
But it's a really, really amazing place to work after my day job. I go there almost every day.
That sounds rad. Sounds like a dream.
Yeah, I mean, if anyone's listening and is in the Boston area, hit me up and I will give you a tour. It is the coolest place ever. It's very addicting.
Let's talk about ConnectiCon coming up.
Yeah, sure.
We have that in literally just a couple days. It is currently Tuesday. This is probably going to be up Wednesday if I can get this up tomorrow. But ConnectiCon, you have a panel. Is the panel with Vicky and Mink again this year?
Unfortunately, Mink will not be able to attend. However, we do
bummer.
have a guest appearing in her place. One of the reasons why the cosplay, aka Vicky, and Mink were originally requested by me to be on this panel is because they both know how to work with fabric. I don't yet. I'm working on it, but I don't really, that's not my specialty yet. So we're going to be doing a panel about materials for props and cosplay.
Mm-hmm.
We'll go over all the basics of foam. Actually, we're not going to talk about how to work the foam quite as much as we will about sort of the science of what foam you want to pick.
Right.
Same with fabrics and the different materials that you can use, plastics as well.
There's slides with handy charts of what materials you should combine and which ones maybe you shouldn't combine.
Yeah, so like I said, I'm sort of a materials nerd, so I'm the person that tends to go off on tangents about the materials, and Mink and V have to kind of drag me back on topic sometimes. But yeah, we'll be doing that panel there, and I'm looking forward to it. We did it at PAX East again this year, which was a ton of fun. And every time we do it, we kind of learn a couple little more things to change or add.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's always a little bit different. It's never just sort of a read the slides and go.
Right.
But we have the Vulgar Seamstress is going to be joining us, as far as I know.
Allie, the Vulgar Seamstress.
Also a previous guest of our show.
Yep, former guest.
Yep, she will be joining us. So, yeah, everyone who's in our panels has experience doing props, but I think I'm the only, specifically prop guy, so to speak. Vicky and Allie both do a lot of full costume work.
Mm-hmm.
I'm currently working on my biggest full costume, which unfortunately will not be ready for ConnectiCon as originally planned. I got really sick a couple months ago, and everything kind of went down the tube. So, catching up now. It'll be ready for New York Comic-Con. At least that's the plan.
Nice.
But I hopefully will have a Spider-Verse, at least partial cosplay for ConnectiCon.
Okay.
Nice.
So, yeah, we'll see how that goes. But, yeah, you should come to the panel. It's going to be great. What are you guys doing for ConnectiCon?
We're reporting.
We're going to be checking. Well, also, real quick, panel, that's 10 a.m. on Saturday, correct?
Correct.
Yes. 10 a.m. Saturday.
10, do you know any room?
They're calling it Cityside 1.
Cityside 1.
Which they don't have, the animal names up just yet.
Yeah.
'Cause in the past, they do, Goliath, Kraken, and those.
Yeah.
So it's not the Riverside or the Highway side, it's the City side.
I imagine it'll be in the program, too. But
yeah.
You can check that out Saturday at 10 a.m. Go in and get some education.
One of my favorite posts was Allie, Vulgar Seamstress, talking about as she was designing her Icarus costume.
Oh, that
She's
costume was so good.
And she's saying, so I was measuring the wings out, and then I blue screened. And she goes, I was making the pattern for Icarus, and then blue screen, and now I have 6-foot wings. Whoops. They weren't supposed to be 6 feet, but
it happens.
Yeah.
It is what it is. But
that's amazing.
As far as our ConnectiCon is usually they've been gracious enough to give us press badges when we go, so we try to do some reporting and some coverage. We try to talk to people from the show, such as yourself.
We try to find things we haven't seen before. We try to run into people that we already have talked to and catch up with them. We try to get a run of the whole thing. We'll focus on a few things here and there. If we think it's something new and interesting that we haven't encountered before, we'll want to talk to them, whatever it might be. Who knows? But
it's really definitely one of our, I mean, all of our shows are our favorite shows. It's kind of unfair, but it's a neat show. It's right in our backyard. So we just travel right on down to Hartford. There's a great barbecue joint, like right across the street. Mm-hmm. So there's pretty much everything you need. But yeah, it's a good time. How long have you been going to ConnectiCon yourself?
I've only been to one other ConnectiCon last year.
Just the one?
Yeah.
Which means you missed out on Super Art Fight.
Me and Carly have been going a lot, so going to cons with them a lot, I should say.
Right.
This year is the second ConnectiCon, so.
That has to be exhausting, because watching Mink in a panel, she seems uncontainable. Is what I come up with.
She is impossible to contain. The crazy part is, I don't think you can comprehend how many conventions and how many costumes Mink makes. Like, she has been to 3 conventions in the last 4 weeks, as far as I know, and has had different costumes at every single one.
Nope, couldn't do that. I'm still recovering from a convention we went to a month ago.
It's just insane. Like, so next year I'm considering. So because I was sick, I missed a convention I've been waiting to go to for 4 years, which was Star Wars Celebration.
Oh yeah, yep.
And I was super excited because they were breaking the every 2-year rule, and they're having it again next year.
Uh-huh.
However, it's the weekend before Dragon Con.
Of course it is.
So that would be 2 5-day conventions back to back.
Huh.
And
sounds like a lot of fun.
Like,
get a lot of rest.
Fun is not necessarily the word that I would use. But fun, yes, but sort of like manic, I don't know what I'm doing with my life type of fun by the end. Because, yeah, anyways. People at conventions are amazing. All of our friends are amazing. They have so much energy, and it's just incredible to be around so many amazing craftsmen and, like, artists. It's just so much fun.
Yeah. It's last year, the panel that I made it to, it got to the Q&A session, and someone was asking the question of, so I want to buy a new sewing machine. What should I look at buying? And the answer was, get one with a lot of stitches, like a lot of variation of different stitches. And I was, and to myself, I'm like, so what, like 5?
Yeah. No, it's like 30 or something.
Yeah, so Vicky's she's like a minimum is 30 or 40.
We're just like, okay.
And I was like,
that's
more than that?
I'm like, okay, sewing machines are black magic. You just like, I don't know. Have you guys ever actually looked at the mechanics of how a sewing machine works?
I tried to take one apart to fix it and couldn't put it back together.
Oh, that's such a terrible idea. Like, even if you look at like a GIF or like a video of exactly how the mechanism works in slow motion,
okay,
you just look at it and you're just like, how does that physics?
It's when what you just said a moment ago. It's literal black magic. It doesn't amazing. It doesn't make any sense. And in the right hands, it's just you can create wonders. But then
I know
I
own a sewing machine. I've made pillowcases on it. Like,
I too have made a pillowcase.
That is the limit of my sewing machine knowledge. Again, I'm working on it because I'm sort of a collector of skills. But
people used to do those with a foot pedal. Like the pedal cranks the machine to make it sew.
Honestly, that would probably be easier. It's slower. Rather than pressing the button, it just be like,
yeah.
Yep.
And now
there's a needle through my thumb now.
Now my finger's sewed. Yeah, exactly.
Oh God.
So, JR and I we've been arguing a little bit in the past. We're completely divided. I'm probably in the minority, because I've seen some of the models you've made, and I'm looking at your 3D design right now, and I saw you like assemble some of it.
Alex is about to embarrass himself.
But why the Peacekeeper?
So, okay.
I'm gonna get
When
schooled.
Apex Legends came out, I knew. So this is just something that I've learned. Like, if you model a thing from a thing that's really hype, if you're the first one who has the best model, people will pay you for it.
Okay.
So the way it's hard because making models takes an inordinate amount of time, like hundreds of hours, over like several weeks. For me, because like I'm doing it either on my lunch break or after work.
Right.
And it's really, really frustrating when people who either don't have a day job similar to mine, or that's their hobby, they just like put up hundreds of models for free.
Oh, right.
Because it's frustrating. Like, yes, I think it's awesome that they're making them accessible to people, but it also makes it a lot harder for people who don't understand the amount of work that goes into these things to like sort of appreciate that they should cost money.
Fair.
And so, for example, I really liked the Wingman, not because it was like OP when it first came out, because I thought the design of the gun was awesome. And the geometry of it actually lends itself pretty well to being modeled relatively quickly. So I did that really fast, and then I was looking at the Peacekeeper, and I was like, oh, that one would be also like really, really easy to model. So I've actually printed off a working model of the Peacekeeper, like it breaks open and everything. But like 2 or 3 people bought it, and then I put it up for free. So like it's the sort of thing where it's sort of a demand and market saturation, because after I posted my model of the Wingman, probably 10 other people posted a different version. And I still think mine is one of the best, but that doesn't mean that theirs isn't good. And theirs is free as well. So like once there's ones that are comparable to mine, I can't really ask people to pay for it. Rather, I can, but if I want people to have my model that says Rocket Props on it, then I have to give it out for free after that point. You know what I mean?
For what it's worth, man, your Wingman print is so good. Like, it is top tier. Like, and
thank you.
This is coming from someone who knows
I have one
nothing.
printed and smooth and everything, but I still haven't painted it yet. So, and that's my problem. Is that like I do so many things, I make so many things that like I have like a huge box filled with just unfinished props. I've got a new Infinity gun from Borderlands I haven't finished. I've got the Peacekeeper I've got to put together. I've got that Wingman I've got to finish. I've got a bunch of other guns that I need to actually print and assemble. One of my big projects a few years ago was I extracted all of the models for all of the Borderlands pistols.
That's a lot of pistols.
I had modeled every single part of almost every single pistol in the game. In Borderlands 2. So I could, in theory, if you gave me a picture of like the automatically generated gun that you have that you like, I could take my 3D models and make them fit together to make that gun.
Damn.
The crazy part that people don't understand is that model in-game, when you extract it, it's every single part of every single gun all in one model, just in a giant blob. And so I had to separate those, figure out which meshes within that model belong to which parts, and extract them separately. Separate them out. I made a spreadsheet because they were just numbered numerically. Then I had to remodel every single one of those parts over that model, because when they get put into the game, they get compressed.
Mhm.
So they're all basically like faceted. So you could print a model straight from the game, but it won't look very good because it's not round. Like the round parts aren't round. The flat parts might not even be flat because of the way texture mapping and 3D models work in video games. But like, it's interesting because as 3D modeling technology gets better, they don't do as much compressing in the game.
Mm-hmm.
So as the games get better, I can extract them and there's way less work to do. So like, I don't have to do nearly as much work, which is nice and also not as nice because it makes it easier for people to do it and compete with, and then all of the above. The whole different world.
That explanation makes me want to call you a madman for going through all that.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I could talk to you for a whole nother podcast about Borderlands and the state of Gearbox, but there's like a whole bunch of stuff buried in that now, so I'm like a lot less hyped than I was about doing Borderlands stuff.
Mm-hmm.
One of my best props I've ever made was the Unkempt Herald, and I sent it to Gearbox as sort of like a, hey, look what I can do if you want.
Right.
And then of course they went with like an actual big company, Thingergy, out in LA to do models and stuff for their new game. But like, yeah, there's like a whole bunch of stuff that I could talk to you about, but we don't have to talk about it now.
I was sitting on a really stupid question of like, hey, on your printed out Wingman, where do I put the skull piercer attachment? Like, where is that?
See, that's the interesting thing because
Jared just gave me such a look.
No. This is actually an interesting question.
Okay.
Because when you put the skull piercer attachment on, there are little fins that come out of the side that like glow. So in theory, if I wanted to make a skull piercer attachment, the two side panels that I have on there would just be a different print with like the ridges in them and an area that I could have LEDs shine through. So I actually thought about that.
I'm glad I asked now. I thought that was really stupid of me.
It was no, it was not a stupid question.
Oh shit.
But like, I didn't actually end up bothering to make that second model yet because just
time.
Like,
yeah.
Life and time, yeah. But I did think about that. Next time you play, if you get a Wingman and you get a skull piercer on it, there's like these fins that come out the side that sort of like fold out when you shoot.
So I do kind of want to commend you also, and like just so other people, our listeners understand, like if you're passionate about something and you really want to do stuff and be a maker and make things and try to work on getting a name for yourself, like it will take your lunch break. It will take 100%. Your time after work.
Yeah.
You'll have to dedicate a lot to it. Like, I mean, when do you have a time to play the games that you're making the guns of?
Well, that's the funny thing is that, like, I haven't really, like, I like Apex because I can sit down and play a 15-minute round.
Yeah.
Yep.
But honestly, like, when, like, Fallout 76 came out, I mean, all the weird issues with it aside,
yeah.
I didn't even buy it. I didn't even finish Fallout 4. Like, I played it, I loved it. Like, I still want to make the X76 power armor from it. But I just don't have the time because I want to, like, my passion is making things.
Yep.
Yeah, I get to, like, design things at work. But it's not the same. And so I want to get my hands dirty. I want to build things. I want to collect more skills. And I want to be one of those people that people recognize and be like, oh, hey, you're that guy. It makes you really happy that you're like, oh, you're that guy with the Duct Tape Serenity. But, like, but exactly, like, it takes a ton of work. Like, that Duct Tape Serenity took me over 170 hours. And I literally came home every day after work and worked on it. and didn't hang out with friends, just worked out. Admittedly, I may have been slightly depressed at the time, but it sometimes is a lonely hobby. Which is one of the reasons why I like the makerspace, because there's always people there who are making different things and doing different things, and I get to learn from them and even help them make cool stuff sometimes. For example, have you guys heard of the Marble Machine X?
Yeah.
No.
I am working on one of the parts for that instrument.
No, you know what it is, Alex. Remember the guy who made the insane...
Is it the big turn the crank and the marbles make music?
Yes.
Yeah, when I don't know how it's pronounced. It's like Wintergatan. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, yeah.
He's making a new one, and it's ridiculous. Like
it is beyond insane.
More than the last one?
You gotta, if you look at his Instagram, he has a ton of progress stuff.
Okay.
Even his YouTube.
Incredible. Like,
it's unbelievable.
But this is the thing that like I want to sort of stress is that I've had some really, really cool opportunities because of people I have met at the Artisans Asylum and the Makerspace.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need a makerspace necessarily. You just have to talk to people. And I mean, sometimes talking to people isn't other people's jam. That's fine. Like, it's fine. But creating a network of other people who know things that you don't is one of the best things that I've been able to do since I moved to Boston. Whether it's digitally, whether it's like simply over text, whether it's phone calls, video chats, Twitch, however it is, learning from other people, even if you don't know them, is like literally how I have gotten as far as I have. And I'm just like an information sponge. But I like meeting people and hearing their experiences and then using those experiences in my own. And that's like how you create connections with people, and that's how you get to do cool things. That's just I really love my makerspace because of that. I've been able to, but again, it doesn't require that makerspace.
Rocket, I am motivated. I want to make stuff. I am now. I'm very anxious for ConnectiCon now. Again, that you can see Rocket, the cosplay, and the Vulgar Seamstress at 10 a.m. on Saturday at ConnectiCon down in Hartford, Connecticut. It's a really cool convention. We recommend checking it. There's a little bit for everyone. Can't really pigeonhole like what the convention is. No. Just there's a lot of stuff there.
It's just a local con. It's nice.
Yep. But this was a lot of fun, man. Before we wrap up, where can people find your stuff should they want to hunt you down on the internet?
Sure. You can find me at Rocket Props on Twitter and Instagram. My Instagram is just mirrored to my Twitter, so message me on Instagram if you want to get a hold of me, or on Facebook. It's same Rocket Props, and then my website is www.rocket-props.com, because the guy who owns rocketprops.com wants $2,000 for it.
Good Lord.
Huh.
But yeah, shoot me a message if you're in the area. I'd love to show you around the makerspace. I will be hosting a Costume 101 class with a friend of mine, where we will be making a Renaissance Fair cloak, and I will be teaching you how to make a staff. That is the weekend of August 10th and 11th, and that's a class I'm hosting at the Artisans Asylum.
Excellent.
So yeah, if you want to come take the class, you're welcome to. And I'll be hosting some vacuum forming classes and hopefully some casting and molding classes in the near future.
It's rad. Rocket, thank you so much for coming on. This was both informative, motivating, and educational. And
good, yeah, I hope I can come on again sometime.
I'm jazzed for ConnectiCon now. So anxious to check out the panel, get to meet you in person, not just as a, because I looked at the picture, the Imgur picture of the Cosplay Repair, and I do believe that was one, like the outfit that I recall seeing. But keep your eyes peeled at a convention near you if you ever need your repairs. You never know who might be there willing to help.
Yeah, of course.
But Rocket Dude, thank you so much for coming on. This was great, man.
Was a pleasure.
Awesome. That is going to do it. We're going to go get ready for ConnectiCon. That is this weekend coming up. I don't know the actual dates. July 12th?
Yes, 12, 13, 14.
Yep. And 11th are they still doing
That's
nerd?
usually the nerd prom.
Yeah. I don't know if they're doing that, but whatever. It might be on the 11th, but at the very least, the 12th, 13th, and 14th. And you might see us there. We'll be in our fancy shirts. That's going to do it for this week, though. So until next time, I have been JR.
I'm Alex.
And I'm Rocket.
And this has been episode 382 of Opinions May Vary.